So let's go through here. I'm not going to do every problem for you in the homework, but we'll go through some examples to make sure we know what we're doing and how to do it. So again, the quadratic formula is up here. So just as a couple reminders, to use the quadratic formula, we always need it to be set equal to 0. And then we'll find A, B, and C and plug those in, and then just start simplifying. So let's start with number 1. If we're identifying A, B, and C, right, the number in front of ax squared, so A is going to equal 1. B is going to equal -4. C is going to equal -96. Okay, so if we plug this into the formula, we'll say x equals -b, right? This is really the opposite of b. We're taking the opposite of whatever b is. So b is -4. It's going to be a +4. Plus or minus b squared. So again, we need those parentheses, -4 squared minus 4 times a times -96 all over 2 times 1. Okay, then we can either do the math in our head, we can use a calculator, but I'm going to pull this out here so you can sort of see, right? We need to type in exactly what we see underneath this square root. So we're typing it in exactly how we see it. We're not putting the square root sign in, just everything else that's underneath it. Okay, so we get out 400. So now we have 4 plus or minus the square root of 400 all over 2. Okay, then we're going to take the square root of 400, which is 20. So we'll have 4 plus or minus 20 all over 2. And this is really 2 options, right? We need to calculate both of them. So we need 4 plus 20 over 2. And we need 4 minus 20 over 2. So again, you can either do these by your hand or use a calculator. But if you use a calculator, you have to actually put in 4 plus 20 equals and then divide it by 2. If you don't do that equals there, you're going to get out the wrong answer. So this is going to be a -16 divided by 2 gives us a -8. So we get x equals 12 and -8. Okay, if we look at number 2, 2 is not in the correct format for the quadratic formula because it's equal to 39 and we need it to be equal to 0. Okay, so we're going to have to move that 39 over. So we'll have n squared minus 10n minus 39 equals 0. Okay, so now we know that A is 1, B is -10, C is -39. And we can start plugging into our formula. So we'll say x equals, right, -b or the opposite of b. So the opposite of -10 is +10 plus or minus b squared, so -10 squared. Again, make sure we have those parentheses. Minus 4 times a times c all over 2a, all over 2 times 1. Okay, so again, underneath the parentheses only. So I'm putting, or underneath the square root only, and I'm typing in those parentheses. Minus 4 times 1 times -39. And I get out 256. Okay, then we need to take the square root of 256. Okay, which is going to give us 16. So we'll have 10 plus or minus 16 all over 2. So we need 10 plus 16 over 2 and 10 minus 16 over 2. Okay, so 26 over 2 will give us 13. And -6 over 2 will give us -3. So x equals 13 or -3. Okay, so numbers 3 and 4, you're going to do the same way that we did 1. Number 5 is going to be the same way that you did 2. Okay, then let's take a look at number 6. Number 6 is in the correct form to use the quadratic formula because it equals 0, but we have to make sure we identify the correct A, B, and C. So A in this case equals 14. B in this situation equals 0 because there's no a to the first power, right? We have 14a squared plus 0a minus 56 equals 0. Okay, c is going to equal negative 56. So we'll say x equals negative 0 plus or minus the square root of 0 squared minus 4 times 14, because that's a, times c, which is negative 56, all over 2 times 14. Okay, we'll put in this stuff underneath the square root. So I'm doing 0 squared minus 4 times 14 times negative 56. Okay, so we have negative 0 plus or minus the square root of 3136 all over 28. I'm going to take the square root of that 3,136, so I'll get negative 0 plus or minus 56 all over 28. Oops, sorry. Right, 0 doesn't really matter if it's positive or negative, so I just need 0 plus 56 over 28 and 0 minus 56 over 28. Okay, so the 0 doesn't really matter, so all I'm doing is 56 divided by 28 and negative 56 divided by 28, which will give me 2 and negative 2.